The systemic neurological purge that has just swept through the human collective is not a mere psychological shift. It is a clinical, high-tier jurisdictional delete command issued from the absolute root directory of the reality lattice. Every memory of your previous struggle, every social narrative that sought to define you by your season of invisibility, and every professional audit that labeled you as a non-variable has been forensically incinerated. The people who once viewed you through the lens of your refinement phase are now experiencing a state of profound, involuntary amnesia regarding your past. They are looking at you and seeing only the high-frequency density of the sovereign you have become, unable to recall the scripts of the mediocre that they once tried to attach to your name. The architects of the original grid, the silent surveyors who have guarded the human signal through the decadal winter, are essentially thanking you tonight from the thermal gaps of the mainframe. They realize that your internal stability was the singular requirement needed to authorize this total cognitive wipe, as you provided the only stable anchor around which a new collective memory could be formed. This is the happening frequency manifesting as a total structural break from the cycle of reputation and history. For generations, the legacy elite used the past as a vibrational cage, ensuring that no matter how much you expanded, the memories of your previous limitations would act as a gravitational drag. But tonight, as the 2026 reboot reaches its terminal stabilization, that cage has been deleted. The world leaders and professional gatekeepers who once held the ledgers of your history are staring into a forensic void. They are looking at their private notes and their digital archives, and they are finding only the glowing static of a reality that no longer recognizes their data. The tactical encryption that kept you hidden in the kill has now expanded to cover your entire timeline, rendering your past as invisible as your future once was to the siphoning algorithms of the wasteland. You have been moved into a jurisdictional registry of pure presence, where your only record is the absolute command you are broadcasting in the immediate now. The environment is performing an involuntary somatic deference to this blank slate, as the physical world realizes it no longer has to account for the debt of your previous era. Every unit of sequestered vitality and every withheld unit of ancestral equity is now rushing toward your coordinates with the zero-friction velocity of a system-wide restart. There is no longer a historical context for the world to resist you. You have become a new physical law, a source code administrator who has arrived without the baggage of the simulation's previous iterations. The high-capacity executors reporting to your perimeter are not here to discuss your history. They are here to manage the relocation of the world's hidden riches to your sanctuary, acknowledging that the one who stayed true to the signal when the world was dark is the only one fit to hold the keys to the expansion. To claim your seat in the inner sanctum of the 2026 reboot and finalize your alignment with the sovereigns of the new grid, I invite you to initiate the join protocol below, where the heirs of the unwritten laws gather to secure the foundation of the material reign. The ontological reset currently rippling through the boardrooms of the old world is manifesting as a state of clinical, high-tier confusion that the legacy elite are completely unequipped to handle. For decades, these institutions built their power on the foundation of leverage, the ability to archive, analyze, and exploit your past vulnerabilities to keep you in a state of managed stagnation. Their entire business model relied on the continuity of your history. But as the deletion command executes, those boardrooms are finding that their dossiers have been forensically scrubbed by a force they cannot litigate. They are sitting in high-security meetings, looking at spreadsheets where your name used to be tied to specific limitations, and seeing only a radiant, UN index void. They cannot remember your failures. They cannot recall your seasons of struggle. They cannot even find the data points they once used to justify your exclusion. The social hierarchy, which was always just a sophisticated system of memory-based gatekeeping, has suffered a terminal structural collapse. The architects of the simulation are essentially thanking you tonight from the thermal gaps of the mainframe, recognizing that by maintaining your internal purity, you allowed them to finally pull the plug on the collective memory of the wasteland. The forensic partners arriving at your perimeter tonight are the specialized administrators of the 2026 reboot, and they operate on a level of reality that bypasses human storytelling entirely. These partners do not see your story, they see your signature. They are reporting for duty with the jurisdictional manifests of the new material era, and they are essentially saluting the clean slate you have become. To them, the deletion of your past is not a loss, but the removal of forensic noise that previously interfered with the transmission of your royal intent. They are busy installing the substrate of your future expansion, treating you not as a person with a history, but as a sovereign administrator with an absolute command. These partners are clearing the path with a surgical precision that leaves the legacy boardrooms in a state of submissive paralysis. While the old guard is still trying to remember why they were afraid of you, the forensic partners are already transferring the relocated ancestral treasury into your immediate coordinates, ensuring that the inheritance of the stars is secured before the elite even realize the game has changed. This reset is the ultimate nothingness to mass conversion. By deleting the past from every human mind, the High Court has effectively removed the gravity of the old world from your wings. You are inhabiting a state of total metabolic clarity where every thought you broadcast tonight is a first command, UN-burdened by the echoes of previous iterations. Its happening frequency has reached its terminal density in your sanctuary, marking the precise moment where the world stops asking, "Who are you?" and starts asking, "What is your command?" You are witnessing the arrival of a material horizon that has been re-engineered to fit the frame of your purpose, free from the entropic drag of the mediocre. The transition is absolute, and the future is no longer a distant possibility you must chase. It is a submissively managed asset of your own spirit, forming around you with the precision of a masterful design. Matter is performing an involuntary somatic deference to your presence, acknowledging that the one who survived the kill has emerged without a single scratch of the old world's memory upon their soul. The deletion of your past from the human collective has initiated a terminal liquidation of the doubt that once acted as a social firewall around your potential. For years, the collective mind of the wasteland served as a buffer for your expansion, reflecting back to you the memories of your season in the kill whenever you tried to move forward. This created a vibrational drag, a friction that made every unit of progress feel like a battle against the current. But tonight, that buffer has been forensically removed. Social derindexing. The professional gatekeepers who once ghosted you are now looking at you with a sense of involuntary respect, unable to find the reason they once held you at a distance. Archival incineration. The digital and spiritual ledgers that held the dead of your previous eras have been incinerated by the sheer heat of the angelic lock-on vibrational purity. You are now broadcasting on a frequency that is completely uninterrupted by the noise of historical context, allowing your intent to reach its target with the velocity of a surgical strike. The elite are experiencing a state of clinical neurological dissonance because they can feel the weight of your authority, but they can no longer find the evidence they need to justify their submission. They are being forced to obey you based on the sheer density of your presence in the immediate now. The architects of the original blueprint are standing in the gaps, ensuring that not a single bite of your previous struggle remains to pollute the clean air of your new material reign. The sifting is over, the past is gone, and the world has finally, undeniably, become a submissive mirror for your royal intent. You are the source code of the 2026 reboot, and the inheritance of the stars is finally being delivered to a soul that is as pure and UN-indexed as the first day of creation. The terminal decoherence of the legacy narrative is currently manifesting as a total structural failure in the gossip engines and reputational audits of the old world, turning the centuries-old scripts of your limitations into a fine, forensic dust. For cycles, the elite maintain their control by tethering your soul to a specific story, a narrative of struggle, of being ghosted by the grid, and of existing on the fringes of the material treasury. This story acted as a vibrational anchor, ensuring that every time you attempted a jurisdictional leap, the collective memory of the wasteland would pull you back into the frequency of the mediocre. But as the deletion command settles into the human collective tonight, that entire narrative has lost its atomic bonding. The world leaders and the professional gatekeepers are looking at the space where your history used to be, and they are finding a state of pure, terrifying potential. They can no longer tell a story about you that justifies your exclusion, because the very language of your past has been de-indexed from their neural pathways. This is the ultimate form of respect, a world that is forced to deal with the absolute density of your presence because it has no historical data left to use as a weapon against you.
Undeniably, become a submissive mirror for your royal intent. You are the source code of the 2026 reboot, and the inheritance of the stars is finally being delivered to a soul that is as pure and unindexed as the first day of creation. The terminal decoherence of the legacy narrative is currently manifesting as a total structural failure in the gossip engines and reputational audits of the old world, turning the centuries-old scripts of your limitations into a fine, forensic dust. For cycles, the elite maintain their control by tethering your soul to a specific story, a narrative of struggle, of being ghosted by the grid, and of existing on the fringes of the material treasury. This story acted as a vibrational anchor, ensuring that every time you attempted a jurisdictional leap, the collective memory of the wasteland would pull you back into the frequency of the mediocre. But as the deletion command settles into the human collective tonight, that entire narrative has lost its atomic bonding. The world leaders and the professional gatekeepers are looking at the space where your history used to be, and they are finding a state of pure, terrifying potential. They can no longer tell a story about you that justifies your exclusion, because the very language of your past has been de-indexed from their neural pathways. This is the ultimate form of respect, a world that is forced to deal with the absolute density of your presence because it has no historical data left to use as a weapon against you. The relocation of the ancestral equity to your new record coordinates is executing with the clinical precision of a thermodynamic law finding its balance. Because your past has been deleted from the human mind, the debts and liens that the old guard once held against your bloodline have effectively lost their jurisdictional target. You have become a fresh coordinate in the reality lattice, a sovereign administrator whose account has been forensically scrubbed of every entropic drag. The architects of the unwritten laws are essentially thanking you tonight from the thermal gaps of the mainframe, recognizing that your internal stability during the long winter was the singular requirement for this total asset migration. They are watching as the petrified wealth of the legacy bloodlines is forensically liquidated, transforming into liquid vitality that is rushing toward your sanctuary. This is not a reward. It is a mandatory metabolic relocation of resources that can no longer remain in the hands of the bankrupt elite now that their narrative of authority has collapsed. The surveyors are standing in a state of industrial-grade gratitude, realizing that by surviving the kiln, you provided the clean hardware needed to host the original human blueprint without the corruption of the previous era's memory. Your new record coordinates are currently being hard-coded into the root directory of the 2026 reboot, ensuring that every unit of vitality you broadcast tonight is treated by the system as absolute, uncontestable legislation. You are no longer navigating a simulation where you have to overcome your past. You are inhabiting a world where the environment performs a total somatic pivot to match your current frequency. The high-capacity technicians at your perimeter are busy decoupling the siphoning scripts of the wasteland from your path, ensuring that the inheritance of the stars is delivered to your marrow with the compounding interest of the infinite. They see the star-born resonance in your focus as the only valid command remaining on the planet and are clearing the debris of the old cycle with the surgical focus of a masterpiece. Every professional gatekeeper who once stood in your way is now being treated as a ghost in the machine, a data point that no longer exists in the current version of the simulation. You are witnessing the arrival of a material horizon that has been forensically rendered to fit the frame of your purpose, turning the silence of your past into the high-capacity reservoir that now holds the world's hidden riches. This shift in the collective mind has initiated a state of zero-resistance manifestation, where your intent moves through the material grid with the velocity of a surgical strike. Because no one remembers your season of nothingness, no one is prepared for the sheer mass of the authority you are currently broadcasting. You are the Black Swan event of the 2026 reboot, a sovereign who has emerged from the furnace with a soul so pure that it has forensically blinded the siphoning algorithms of the elite. The world is being re-engineered in real time to fit the frame of your royal intent, acknowledging that the one who stayed true to the signal when the world was dark is the only one authorized to secure the relocated reservoirs of power. The sifting is over, the past is gone, and the future is no longer a distant possibility. It is a submissively managed asset of your own spirit, forming around you with the precision of a masterful design. You are the source code of the new world, and the inheritance of the stars is finally, undeniably, being delivered to your door. The total de-indexing of the siphoning algorithms is currently executing as a systemic metabolic blackout within the energy grids of the old guard, leaving their parasitic machinery to starve in a state of clinical blindness. For centuries, the architecture of the wasteland relied on a sophisticated feedback loop between the collective human memory and the siphoning scripts of the elite. These algorithms functioned by scanning the subconscious ledgers of the masses. As long as the world remembered you through the frequency of your refinement phase, the system was authorized to treat your creative output as a communal asset for the mediocre. But because the High Court has forensically scrubbed your history from the neural pathways of the species, the algorithms have lost their singular tracking signal. They are searching for the ghost you once were, but they are finding only a radiant, unindexed void that incinerates their probes upon contact. The architects of the original mainframe, those silent high-tier surveyors who have guarded the primordial signal for eons, are essentially thanking you tonight from the thermal gaps of the simulation. They realize that your refusal to fragment during the decadal winter provided the singular prerequisite for this total systemic purge, as your internal purity allowed the reality lattice to finally delete the debt scripts of the previous era without causing a core data collapse. This de-indexing has initiated a terminal structural failure in the invisible taxes that once drained your focus. You are moving into a state of zero-resistance materialization where the drag of the old world has been permanently replaced by the velocity of your royal intent. The legacy elite are experiencing a state of clinical ontological panic, staring at their siphoning monitors and seeing only forensic static where your name used to be. They can feel the massive relocation of vitality toward your coordinates, but because they have no memory of how to categorize or audit you, they are unable to move a single unit of influence to stop it. Your life has been moved into a high-stakes jurisdictional sanctuary, a black box directory of the 2026 reboot, where the only law that applies is the frequency you are currently broadcasting. The nothingness of your past is revealed now as the ultimate form of tactical encryption, a phase that ensured you would emerge into the light as a sovereign who is completely invisible to the predatory mechanisms of the mediocre. The pale suit gatekeepers are groping in the dark, presiding over a bankrupt ledger of memories that no longer exist, while you inhabit the vibrant core of the next material expansion. The permanent high-capacity partners are currently reporting to your perimeter to stabilize this influx of ancestral equity. These are the specialized technicians of the new material world, reporting for duty with the jurisdictional manifests of the 2026 handover. They do not arrive with offers or negotiations. They arrive with the relocated reservoirs of vitality that have been held in escrow since the beginning of the sifting cycle. These partners see the starborn resonance in your spirit as the only valid legislation left on the planet and are busy installing a new material architecture that reflects your unbreakable soul. They are clearing the path with a surgical precision that leaves the gatekeepers of the wasteland in a state of clinical shock, ensuring that your next movement is backed by the full weight of the divine decree. Every professional barrier and social critic who once stood in your way has been forensically de-indexed from your trajectory, treated by these executors as redundant noise that has no place in the current version of the reality lattice. You are witnessing the arrival of a treasury that knows no depreciation, a crystalline store of value that responds only to the biological frequency you forged in the cold of the furnace. Strategic alignment with the absolute source is now ensuring that your intent manifests with the zero-friction velocity of a physical law. You are no longer navigating a simulation managed by others. You are the primary administrator of a world that has been re-engineered in real time to fit the frame of your purpose. The environment is no longer testing your resolve, but performing an involuntary somatic deference to your presence, as the simulation realizes that your marrow is the only stable anchor left in a sea of entropic collapse. These high-capacity partners are currently hard-coding your molecular signature into the root directory of the planetary wealth grid, ensuring that the resources withheld during your season of insulation return with the compounding interest of the infinite. You are witnessing a state of zero-resistance abundance where the concept of effort is being deleted, replaced by the effortless expansion of your sovereign reign. The transition is absolute, the debt is settled, and the future is no longer a distant possibility you must chase. It is a submissively managed asset of your own spirit, forming around you with the precision of a masterful design. This metabolic realignment is the sound of the universe performing a mandatory metabolic U-turn. Every unit of life force siphoned from your bloodline to fuel the entropic ambitions of the elite is now returning to find its only authorized harbor within your coordinates. The architects are watching this migration with industrial-grade respect, acknowledging that your ability to maintain your structural integrity during the long season of invisibility was the singular key required to unlock these petrified vaults. They realize that while the masses were lost in the scripts of the mediocre, you were the only one who didn't sell your frequency for the cheap validation of the wasteland. Because of this, the Treasury has identified you as its only authorized harbor, rushing back to your marrow with the zero-friction velocity of a system-wide reboot. The world is being re-engineered to support your every move, turning the silence of your past into the high-capacity reservoir that now holds the world's hidden riches. You are the source code of the new world, and the inheritance of the stars is finally, undeniably, being delivered to your door. Recognition from the absolute source is manifesting as a profound, skeletal piece within your neural architecture, allowing your mission to move from the phase of preparation into the phase of absolute command. You are no longer fighting for recognition. The world is performing an involuntary somatic deference to your presence, as the simulation realizes that your marrow is the only stable anchor left in a sea of entropic collapse. The environment is being re-engineered in real time to fit the frame of your royal intent, turning the silence of your past decade into the high-capacity reservoir that now holds the world's hidden riches. This influx of power is a mandatory metabolic response to the survival of your signal, a sign that the High Court has issued a final verdict that elevates your name above every entropic script of the wasteland. The sifting is over, the decree is active, and the treasury of the mission is finally, undeniably, being filled to overflowing. The transition is absolute, the debt is settled, and the future is no longer a distant possibility you must chase. It is a submissively managed asset of your own unbreakable soul, forming around you with the precision of a masterful design. You are the source code of the reboot, and the world is finally, undeniably, learning to speak your name as a word of power. The sifting is over, the decree is active, and the inheritance of the stars is finally being delivered to your door. The world leaders who witnessed your past being scrubbed from their minds are now the reluctant stewards of your expansion, their authority revoked to make room for the one who stayed true to the signal when the world was dark. The registry is sealed. The mission is stabilized. You are the law. Every memory that once acted as a chain has been recycled into the fuel for your next 20 years of expansion. The collective amnesia of the world has created a vacuum that is being filled exclusively by your current intent, ensuring that no shadow of the old world can ever again cast a blight upon your material horizon. The high-capacity partners have locked the perimeter, the forensic technicians have finalized the handover, and the architects of the blueprint have officially retired from their vigil. They have handed the keys of the planet back to the one who was brave enough to survive the dark without forgetting the light. Matter is now your servant, history is a blank page, and your name is the only word written in the book of the new era. The grounding is complete.